rebounds, and the Warriors lose. The Clippers win 103-102. Tight ball game, handshakes and hugs down the floor below. But another winnable game goes by the boards for Golden State. Post-game show upcoming on the 95.7 The Game Warriors Radio Network, presented by United Airlines.
Indeed, Tim Roy with the call. It was a winnable game, and the Warriors just couldn't quite get it done. The final score, Clippers 103, Warriors 102. Welcome into Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you, and oh man, there's a lot to talk about after this one. Warriors, they lose a heartbreaker. They had the ball in their hands with a chance to win in the final second. Steph Curry, though, fouled out, so who do they turn to? Jimmy Butler. They inbound the ball to him with 7 seconds left in the right corner, tries to back down his defender, takes a little fadeaway, and not even close. It misses. Scrum and a fight for the basketball as it's bouncing, and no one can control it before the buzzer expires, and that's the ball game, 103-102. But how did we get there? Well, it would take multiple hours to explain fully how we got there. We can fast forward all the way until pretty late in this basketball game, and trust me, we're going to get to the officiating. It was amazing the Warriors were in this basketball game down the stretch. Now, that is a compliment to how they played down the stretch. It is also an insult because they did not deserve to be in this basketball game the way they were playing for most of it. But it was 94-81 Clippers, 4.5 to go in the fourth quarter. And the Warriors come storming back. Jimmy Butler hits a mid-range jumper. Guy Santos, a cutting layup off of a Draymond assist. Draymond, with the ball in his hands today, was phenomenal. He finished with 12 assists, by the way. After that, Jimmy Butler hit like a one-legged three. Then Jimmy Butler got to the free throw line and made them both. Curry got to the free throw line and made those. Draymond hit a couple of free throws. Warriors suddenly within 4, 94-90, with 3 minutes left. Then after that, Chris Dunn made a three for the Clippers. They go back up by 7. Steph hits back-to-back threes. Suddenly, from down 7 with 1:45 left, you're within 1 with 1:05 left. That's a 6-0 run, all on Steph threes in 40 seconds of basketball. And the Warriors, down by just 1. Again, about a minute left. They force a miss on the other end, but Chris Dunn gets the offensive rebound. Curry swipes at his arm, commits a foul, his 6th. He fouls out. Dunn makes both free throws. Back to a 3-point game. Draymond then drives past Zubac and gets a layup. Warriors back within 1, 33 seconds left. They play such good defense that Ty Lue has to call a timeout with like 4 seconds left on the shot clock. After the timeout, they inbound the ball to Kawhi. He misses a contested 3 at the shot clock buzzer. The ball goes out of bounds off the Clippers, and the Warriors have the ball, down 1, 7 seconds left, and a chance to win. They inbound it to the right corner. Jimmy Butler there on Batum, backs him down a couple of dribbles, misses the fadeaway. Again, the scramble for the ball, and the Warriors ultimately lose this game at the buzzer, 103-102, in a really, really rough way to lose a basketball game. But of course, why was it a 13-point deficit? Why was it a 13-point deficit? Well, let's talk about it. And I imagine a lot of you guys are going to want to weigh in. 888-957-9570 if you want to join the conversation. Again, that's 888-957-9570. That's both the number to call, and it is the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. Okay. We're going to kind of work our way backwards in this game because I think what comes to mind first for everybody was one, that close, but also what happened earlier in the fourth. We're going to get to the third quarter, though, because the third quarter was just an absolute mess for the Warriors. They could not buy a shot, really, this entire basketball game until down the stretch, honestly, but specifically in the third quarter. Offensively, perhaps the worst quarter the Warriors have played all season long. We will get to that. But first, we have to discuss what happened in the fourth quarter from an officiating perspective. So, it is 78-74 Clippers with 9 minutes left. Guy Santos made a free throw, and he just hit a three-pointer as well, and he did not play through the first 3 quarters of this basketball game. Then came in, began the fourth quarter, and kind of helped ignite the Warriors in that fourth quarter. Curry has a circus shot and one where he can feel the reach in and the foul from behind. The second that he feels it, he begins the upward shooting motion, and only as Steph can do, gets the shot to fall. There's no whistle. No whistle all the way until the shot goes in, and then the official calls a foul. And normally what that means is the official, normally when the shot misses is when you call the foul. When you wait and you see if it goes in, you don't call the foul. There's like a little bit of gamesmanship there. If the foul took away the player's ability to make the shot, then I'm going to call it a foul. But if he makes the shot anyway, I'm not going to call the foul because he already got the 2 points out of it. What happened in this case was you wait to see if the shot goes in, it goes in, and then you call the foul, and then you say, well, it wasn't continuation. So if it wasn't continuation, why the hell are you waiting until you see if the shot goes in or not? That makes no sense to me. It frankly would make even a little bit more sense if you happened to wait for the shot to go in or not. It missed, because that's normally what you do. When the shot goes in on a ticky-tack foul, you just don't call the foul in the first place. So not only did he wait to see if it goes in, even though the continuation, which means the shot didn't even matter because you waved off continuation, but you also called the foul after the shot went in, when normally you call the foul only when the shot misses in a situation like that. But again, the shot didn't even matter because you waved off the continuation in the first place. That got Steph Curry upset. It began kind of, I think, Steve Kerr's frustration. And this is not just a one-game thing. This has been a recent thing for Steph and the Warriors, specifically for Steph. He's not getting a lot of these continuation calls. I think by the letter of the law, was that continuation? I don't think so. I don't think that was continuation. The foul occurs, and then Steph begins the upward shooting motion. By the letter of the law, probably not a foul. But have I seen that be called not continuation. It is a foul, but not continuation. Now, have I seen that be ruled as continuation countless times across the NBA this year and last year and multiple years back? Like, yes, I have seen that called as continuation very often. Okay, so the Warriors don't get the continuation. It would have been a three-point play for Steph. Instead, Steph misses a three, so they don't get any points on that possession. Okay, so instead of it being a one-point game, it's still a four-point game. Collins then makes a three on the other end, so the lead is instead back up to 7. Okay, that's part one of the officiating nonsense. Okay, the second part, I think, is the worst. The worst bunch. And the first part is more confusing than anything else. In my opinion, I don't understand what's going through the official's mind when you wait to see if the shot goes in, when the shot has no bearing on the play because you're ruling no continuation in the first place. The second one, though, is just absolutely terrible officiating. How can you possibly miss something so blatant as that Collins goaltend on GP2? So Draymond drives towards the top of the paint. GP2 cuts from the left baseline. Draymond finds him, and he was finding cutters all night long in this game. The layup goes off the glass, off the hands of GP2. Then John Collins makes contact on the block. Clearly off the backboard. Then Collins makes contact. They do not call goaltend. They don't call anything. Just play on. And in the chaos after that, Steph Curry commits a foul on, I believe it was Chris Dunn. Steve Kerr is irate. I have not seen Steve Kerr this upset in a really long time. And frankly, he should be irate. I told you I think he was pretty frustrated by the non-continuation call on that Steph circus shot that we were just talking about. That kind of began getting him frustrated. Then this happens. You miss an obvious goaltend call. You don't call it. You take 2 points off the board for the Warriors. And again, the scramble after the fact. Steph commits a foul. So they were already going to the free throw line on the other end. And then Steve Kerr, frankly, kudos to Steve, gets 2 quick texts, gets ejected. Absolutely, you have to do something in that situation. And again, in the rules of the NBA, there's no call there, which means you can't even challenge it, even if you have a challenge to use. That is not a challengeable play because there was no call made in the first place, which is why officials should always lean to calling a goaltend. You should always lean to calling a goaltend if you're uncertain, because at least when you make a call, that then becomes challengeable. But because no call was made, there's nothing to challenge, and Steve Kerr and the Warriors are just left to be like, well, we just got screwed out of 2 points. So, Steve, I congratulate you for getting in the officials' faces, getting 2 quick texts, getting ejected from this basketball game. Something had to happen because that was absolute nonsense. And then what happens, of course, is you take the 2 points off the board for the Warriors. You give the technical free throw, and then the free throws that happened because of the ensuing fight for the rebound after the block. That is a 5-point swing right there. If you include the non-continuation call on the Steph would-be 3-point play, that's 8 points that changed the basketball game right in that moment. Now, I know for the first 10 minutes, that's all I've been talking about, essentially, is the officiating. It is a gigantic part of this basketball game. I think it's more just a shame for the NBA that games are being decided in things like this. I think it's also very important to say the Warriors, through 3 quarters, played really bad basketball, specifically on the offensive end, just not being able to make a single shot. I say really bad basketball on the offensive end, and all of your minds probably immediately go to the turnover battle, which is where normally the Warriors kick themselves on the offensive end. They only turn the ball over 7 times in this basketball game, so actually, in terms of decision-making, in terms of taking care of the basketball, they were actually doing a pretty good job. They just could not buy a bucket. They go 38% from the field, 35 for 92 from the field, 10 of 41 from downtown. That's 24% from deep. They get 15 more shot attempts up than the Clippers. 15 more shot attempts for the Warriors than the Clippers, yet you lose this basketball game. You know how difficult that is to do? How about the turnover battle? The Warriors committed 7. The Clippers committed 20. The Warriors scored 27 points off the Clippers' 20 turnovers. The Clippers scored just 7 off the Warriors' 7 turnovers. You were a plus 20 in the points off of turnovers battle, and a plus 13 in the turnover battle. How do you lose that basketball game? You put up an insane display, in a bad way, of shooting. You go 35 for 92 from the field. Steph was a volume scorer today, 27 points, 9 for 23 from the field. I thought he was hoisting. He was chucking a little bit. Now, he got a couple of threes to go in that fourth quarter. Big reason why the Warriors were in the game late, right before he fouled out. But he was searching, I think, a little too aggressively for his shot. 4 for 15 from downtown. Draymond Green, who was amazing passing the basketball today, was 2 for 8 from the field, 0 for 6 from downtown. You got nothing from Moses Moody. He made 1 shot, missed all of his threes, was 1 for 5 from the field. You did not get a whole lot from really... No one had a shooting night, basically, other than GP2, who was 7 for 10, and I think all of them were right around the rim. You just did not get any kind of offense from anybody with any kind of efficiency other than guys who are just shooting in the paint, layups, and dunks. It was pretty ugly to watch at times. How about the third quarter specifically for the Warriors? The third quarter, the Clippers scored 21 points in the third quarter. That feels like a win for the Warriors, right? Wrong, because the Warriors only scored 13 points. The Warriors in the third quarter, how about this? This is like hard to believe. The Warriors in the third quarter went 3 for 24 from the field and 0 for 9 from downtown. They did not make a field goal in the final 8 minutes of the quarter. No field goals made in the final 8 minutes of the quarter. Now, they did make 7 free throws during that stretch, so it wasn't scoreless, and it wasn't really that close to scoreless, but 0 made field goals over the final 8 minutes of the third quarter. Jimmy Butler hit a tip-in layup on a putback with 8:05 left in the third. They did not make another field goal the rest of the way. Moody, Curry, and Butler all made free throws in that stretch, but no made field goals over the final 8 minutes of the third quarter. So when we talk about the story of this basketball game, and again, I want to hear from Warrior fans, and we're going to go out to the phones in just a sec, 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. That's both the number to call and the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. I see the 415 chiming in. I see the 206. I see the 224 and the 707. We'll get to all your thoughts coming up in just a little bit. But when we talk about the story of this Warrior game, so many of us, and rightly so, are going to think about the officiating because it was just flat out bad, flat out terrible in that fourth quarter. I tend to hate blaming officiating. This feels like a pretty extreme circumstance, and that was a clear goaltend that was not called that takes 2 points away from you and you lose the game by 1 point. That hard to argue it did not have a major impact on this basketball game. So this is an instance where I'm okay blaming officiating. That costs the Warriors potentially a win. Let's not pretend, though, that the Warriors played good basketball for the majority of this basketball game. They were really struggling offensively. Defense, I thought for the most part was pretty good. Clippers, they shot 48% from the field, but the Warriors forced 20 turnovers and scored 27 points off of those turnovers. You do that, you're going to win a lot of basketball games, and a lot of that was thanks to the Warriors' activity in passing lanes, ball pressure, double teaming Kawhi Leonard. How many turnovers did Kawhi finish with? 5. It was a great game plan defensively, sending doubles Kawhi's way, committed those 5 turnovers. The Warriors took care of the ball. They were creating open shots. It matters who those open shots, who those creations were coming for, who was taking those open shots, and that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later on tonight here on Warriors Wrap-Up. So the Warriors, it wasn't a terrible game from them. They did a lot of things well. They just cannot make shots, and they cannot make the open shots they're creating. And then you add on top of that the officiating, and that's the recipe for a heartbreaking 1-point loss, 103-102. Let's go out to the phone lines at 888-957-9570. Again, get your calls in now if you want to weigh in. 888-957-9570. Up first is Chardol in Fremont, who joins us here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's up, Chardol?
Hey, Mark Randy. I'm a big fan of 95.7 The Game. I listened to you on the radio after Warriors game. This was a tough loss for the Warriors. They lost to the Clippers 103-102. They deserve to get this win tonight. We got this win taken away from us. I mean, that makes me so furious. I'm like, this win was supposed to come to us, and the Clippers took it away from us, which is absolutely irreprehensible, and that is something I will not take. And we will bounce back from this win. I mean, we will get a win when we face off against the Bucks with Giannis coming into town. This was frustrating, man. Like, I can't take this anymore. But it was great calling into Warriors Wrap-Up, and I'll definitely call in next time.
All right, thanks, Chardol. Appreciate the kind words as always. It's just a game, Chardol. It's going to be all right. But there's no doubt this was a frustrating one. You lose by a single point, and you felt like there's a couple of officiating decisions that went against you. It hurts. It does hurt. And for the Warriors, I mean, they're scratching and clawing to try to get every win that they possibly can right now, and they just can't quite sneak by. And you look at the Warriors lately, let's see, going back to the 4th of December, so a little more than a month. Let's just call it even a month. 4th of December, the Warriors have 3 1-point losses. 99-98 in Philadelphia, 99-98 in Phoenix, and now 103-102 versus the Clippers. The Warriors they're unable to figure things out in clutch time down the stretch. And honestly, like, tonight wasn't a night where they didn't figure it out because they dominated the crunch time in this basketball game, right? The Warriors, they were down, let me get the numbers exactly right. They were down 13, 94-81 with 4.5 left. That is like nearing the range where it should be impossible for you to come back. Like, the opposing team can just take shot clock violations and you feel all right about your chances to win. But the Warriors found a way to get back within one. 94-81 with 4:30 left. The Warriors scored in the final 4:30 of this basketball game 21 points. You know how crazy that is? The Warriors scored 21 points in the final 4 minutes and 30 seconds of this game. The Warriors scored just 13 points in a full third quarter. The Warriors scored 13 points in 12 minutes of basketball in the third quarter, including 7 points in the final 8 minutes of the third quarter. And then they scored 21 points in the final 4:30 of this basketball game. They were actually, the much better basketball team down the stretch. But one of the more frustrating aspects of this Warriors team so far this season, in my opinion, it's that they have consistently, and again, tonight wasn't that because they were great down the stretch, But this season, I just laid out those 1-point losses. Again, 99-98 in Philadelphia. There was trouble inbounding the ball in that game that cost the Warriors. 99-98 in Phoenix. And then a 1-point loss tonight. And there's a lot of other really close losses as well. 5-point loss in Portland, 7-point loss versus Minnesota, 4-point loss versus Houston. And by the way, that Houston loss was when they were without a superstar in Kevin Durant. The Clippers without James Harden and others today. You had a loss in Orlando where you had that game down the stretch, but you blew it down the stretch. There's a lot of close losses that have gone not the Warriors' way. And I think that is the most frustrating aspect of this Warrior team, is that they are a veteran team. They are a team that's won 4 championships, specifically Steph and Draymond, and of course a couple pieces here and there, specifically Jimmy Butler, that have been through the wars despite never winning a championship. But this is a team whose identity is their mettle and everything that those veterans have seen. And you would think, at least this is what I thought, and it's why I thought the Warriors were going to be a whole lot better than 19-18 through 37 games, is this is a team that should be able to out-execute their opponents in crunch time. When, it's a 5-point game in the final 5 minutes, right? That's how the NBA defines a clutch game. In those circumstances, this Warrior team, you would think, just purely based on what the majority of their roster has been through, that they would be able to control games down the stretch in clutch time, in crunch time, and win a lot of those basketball games. I was thinking back to the tail end of the Spurs dynasty, and I know that's like the easy comp, an aging dynasty that still has basically their core group intact for the Warriors other than Clay, but Steph and Draymond still here, and you bring in another veteran piece who's been through the wars in Jimmy, and that's your new core group. And Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, they would just out-execute you down the stretch. They would just play such smart basketball. They'd get a stop when they needed it, and if they needed the bucket, they'd utilize excellent ball movement, get an easy look, and they'd hit it. That's where I thought the Warriors would run laps around their opponents, is crunch time decision-making, crunch time execution. And for the majority of those clutch games this season, that has not been the case. What are the Warriors in clutch games now? I can find that for you here in just a second. I'll do. Here it is. The Warriors. Let's see. The Warriors now are 8-12 in clutch games this year, so it might not be as bad as we all think. At least in my mind, it feels like it's worse than that. But still, if you just turn 3 of those results around, and there's 3 1-point losses in the last month. If you just turn 3 of those around, instead of 19-18, you're 22-15. And doesn't that sound like 10 times better? Yes, it absolutely does. So it's not about being perfect in those moments. It's just about being better than worse, or better than average. And right now, the Warriors are a little below average. If they just turn 3 of those clutch games around, you are 22-15. And instead of being 8-12 in clutch games, you're 11-9 in clutch games. That's not like a gigantic shift, and that's not suddenly you're an elite clutch team game, a clutch time team. You are just a team that is a little bit above average, and the Warriors are not that right now, and as a result, they are barely above average as a team as a whole this year, sitting at 19-18. 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in and join the conversation. I want to read this text from the 415 talking about the officiating tonight, and if you missed it, there was a non-call, a non-continuation call on a Steph circus shot, and the situation was defender on his back hip swipes down at Steph, makes contact with him. Steph, being the smart player he is, feels that foul and just immediately throws up a shot. The shot goes because he's Steph Curry, and then the foul comes. The whistle blows after the shot goes in, which is extremely odd. It's not the way that it normally works in this kind of situation. The shot goes in, and then the whistle blows. And then, as the official is explaining, the call says no continuation. Let me explain why that's odd in a couple of different ways. Because number one, if you're ruling out continuation, then the result of the shot does not matter. So call the foul the second you see the foul if you're waving off continuation. You don't need to wait for the shot to go in or not because, again, you're saying the shot was superfluous. Did not matter. So just wave it off immediately and call a foul when you see the foul. Okay, that's reason one why that's odd. Number two is because oftentimes officials will, when continuation is called, they will wait to see if the shot goes in or not, right? If it's maybe a ticky-tacky foul, the official wants to give the offensive player the benefit, but if the shot goes in, the official will say, well, it didn't really factor into his ability to make the shot, so I'm not going to call the foul because the shot went in anyway. But if the shot misses, he'll then call the foul so the player can get the 2 free throws out of it, and they can, get the benefit. The benefit still goes to the offensive player no matter what. Now, I tend to not really like that rule because if it's a foul, it's a foul, whether or not the shot goes in or not. But that's the way it's called a lot of times in the NBA. That's also strange because the shot went in, and then the official called the foul, which is not how that normally goes. And then he waved off continuation. That's part one. That is, for me, just more strange than like absolutely egregiously terrible. The next one, though, is egregiously terrible because just a couple of minutes later, Draymond Green dumps off a pass to a cutting GP2 from the left side, left baseline, gets the layup off the glass. It's about to go in. It bounces off the glass. Then John Collins blocks it. That's a goaltend by rule. If it hits the backboard, then you make contact with the ball. It's a goaltend. It does not matter if the ball is still going up. Oftentimes, you see like a finger roll layup where they use the glass from the right or left side, and after it hits the backboard, it's still like on the way up. The momentum is still carrying it up off the glass. It does not matter. If the ball is off the backboard and then you touch it, it is a goaltend no matter which direction the ball is going after it hits the backboard. Clearly hit the backboard first, then the block happened. No goaltend called. That takes 2 points off the board for the Warriors. In the scrum after the fact, the chaos after the fact, all Warrior fans or Warrior players are screaming. Steph commits a foul right after that. Going to be free throws for the Clippers. Steve Kerr gets 2 techs, the technical free throw, and the 2 other free throws, plus the 2 points off the board from the Warriors. That's a 5-point swing in that play alone in a game in which the Warriors lose by 1. Absolutely ridiculous officiating down the stretch. But I want to read what the 415 wrote. The 415 says, I thought all things considered that was a good game in the final minutes. Steph's heroics are always special, and Guy being tapped by Kerr was a good call in the fourth. It was a good game once the team played with urgency, but it could have been a great game if it wasn't for the officiating. Absolutely brutal. I don't know if you're allowed to say it, but it was borderline unprofessional. Completely takes over the game and ruins it. 415, yeah, I can call it unprofessional. I think it... I mean, that was not a professional level display by the officials. That's absolutely fair to say. We can criticize the players when they don't play up to their professional standards. We can criticize the coaches when they don't make the right decisions, because that is what they are professionals at. And just like we can criticize those guys, we can also criticize the officials. That's no doubt. Now, I do see these other comments, and I hear you on the YouTube chat. YouTube.com/957thegame. JFA is weighing in. JFA writes, sorry, all this ref nonsense is called basketball. We don't analyze ref calls the way ref calls that I think probably go in our favor. We need better shooters and vets to play better or shake up the roster. JFA, I want to make sure that I'm making myself clear. You're absolutely right. Like, there's a chance that the officiating cost the Warriors in this basketball game, but the way that they took care of the basketball, the way that they turned over the Clippers in this game, the game should not have been in the balance to the point where the officials can impact the outcome. The Warriors did not hit open shots over the course of this basketball game. That's why they lost. The officials certainly did not help, and it's a shame that officiating is going to be a major topic. And Terry Stotts, who acted as head coach for the Warriors once Steve Kerr got ejected, he spoke for Steve Kerr postgame, and we're going to hear from him. I believe one of the first things that he said was, I'm doing the presser for Steve to save him some money. Because you know what Steve was going to do if he talked to the media tonight? He was going to rip them. He was going to rip them, and he would have gotten fined for it. as he should. Not as he shouldn't get fined. He should rip them because that was really, really bad. We can say it was a terrible display of officiating, and I think it absolutely was in the fourth quarter. We can also say that should not have decided the basketball game because the Warriors, they should have been up by a decent margin in the first place. We'll talk more about that. Time for your calls and your texts. Again, 888-957-9570 to weigh in. We will hear from Terry Stotts and a whole lot more. Dubs lose a heartbreaker, 103-102. Plenty to talk about when we come back. It's Warriors Wrap Up. Mark Randy with you. Back with more next on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, Joy. Oh, you are glowing.
Oh, hey, more like Mira joyed that Miralax helped me go. I was so backed up. Tried mega coffees, prune juice, everything. Then Miralax. And hello, gentle relief without the harsh side effects.
Ooh, how does it work?
It works naturally with the water in your body for constipation relief. Find Miralax today at your local retailer.
Use as directed for occasional constipation.
Neuropathy is a debilitating condition that is sometimes misdiagnosed. Symptoms can include pain, numbness, and tingling in your hands, legs, and feet. Neuropathy is a progressive condition that only worsens unless you get effective treatment. SF Bay Wellness is a leader in neuropathy reversal and uses FDA-cleared, non-invasive electric cell therapy to restore nerve function with no injections, no drugs, and no surgery. The treatments have a 95% success rate. If distance is a factor, ask about our virtual consultation option. Call SF Bay Wellness at 844-94-NERVE for the $99 neuropathy evaluation and receive a personal treatment plan that is tailored to your needs. Don't wait another day. Call 844-94-NERVE. That's 844-94-NERVE. Why keep suffering with the painful symptoms of neuropathy? You deserve to live a pain-free life. Start getting the treatment you need for your neuropathy symptoms. Call today.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and RNS Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rnsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Jay from San Rafael. Hector came out and fixed my garage door and was super courteous, informative, and did a fantastic job. He explained everything clearly and made sure everything worked perfectly before leaving. Couldn't be happier. Definitely recommend.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working. I was in need of a closer. I was put in touch with RNS Doors and they hooked me up with a brand new garage door opener from LiftMaster. With LiftMaster's MyQ connectivity, my garage door opener can be controlled right from my smartphone. You'll know when a door or gate has been left open and can close it with a tap, no matter where I am. Be one of the first 10 callers and receive 20% off a LiftMaster garage door opener.
Call 1-800-FIX-A-DOOR. That's 800-FIX-A-DOOR. Or visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
When the new year hits, every business could use a little something to stay ahead. A lift, a jump start, an edge, or perhaps a boost. Like the all-new 5-year business boost from Comcast Business. It's the certainty of a price lock for 5 years on qualifying internet bundles. Plus, you'll have the most reliable Wi-Fi with our best equipment, so your whole team can stay connected at a great rate. And to sweeten the deal, ask about a $500 prepaid card when you add 2 lines of mobile. It's the boost your business deserves. So sign up for the 5.
Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report, May 2025.
All guests on 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line.
Dub Nation, this is Jimmy Butler, and you never know when I'll be on the River Islands guest line.
Dub Nation, this is Stephen Curry, and you never know when I'll be on the River Islands guest line. So make sure to keep it locked on 95.7 The Game.
River Islands in Lathrop is the best-selling master plan community in all of Northern California. With its lakes, parks, trails, and collection of new home neighborhoods, the good life can be your life. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands?
In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. At Great Clips, we save your haircut details in clip notes, so every member of the highly skilled team knows exactly how to create your signature look. And with our easy-to-use app, you can check in from anywhere and get a ready next text when you're up next for a cut. It's the confidence of a great haircut delivered by a team you trust. Download our app today. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Curry, handoff from Draymond. Quick three, right side of the circle. It's good. It's 101-97. Warriors down 4. And you hear the crowd roar on the Curry jumper. Bounce pass to Draymond. Back to Curry. A relocation three is on the way. It's around and good. It popped up and popped in. It's a 1-point game. Timeout Clippers.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Amazing the Warriors were back in this basketball game. They were down 13, 94-81 with 4:30 left in the fourth. Jimmy Butler began to take over in that fourth quarter. I thought he was amazing in the fourth. Steph hit 2 threes. You heard them both right there. The voice of the Dubs, Tim Roy, calling the action here on 95.7 The Game. Got the Warriors within 1. Unfortunately, Steph committed what was not a very smart foul as well down the stretch of this basketball game. The Warriors got to stop after Steph hit the 3 to get him within 1, had a chance to get the ball and take the lead, but Chris Dunn, the offensive rebound, and Steph trying a little too hard, committed a foul from behind, swiping, got that forearm, committed a foul. He fouled out. The Dunn free throws were good. You're better off at that point once you give up the offensive rebound to just let him score because you got 5 fouls, and Steph, you are worth more than 2 points that the opponent is going to score, and you ended up committing the foul anyway, and they got the 2 points, and you got fouled out. So the worst of both worlds. There's a lot that happened in this basketball game. We're going to focus a lot on the refereeing because that's what I think upsets fans the most. And I just like you all, I'm a fan, and it's what's sticking with me as well. The Warriors did a lot of things well in this basketball game. Really, the one thing they just did not do consistently well all game until the final 4.5 was make open shots. And then that Steph Curry decision to commit that foul, his 6th, was not a good one either. There's a lot of small decisions like that add up over the course of over this basketball game. I do want to read what the official in question, Brian Forte, who's the crew chief tonight, had to say about some of these decisions post-game. And first, let me kind of rehash the decisions that we're talking about here. So number 1, there was the no continuation call on the Steph circus shot and 1, where he was clearly fouled, and a foul was rightly called. The question was it continuation or not? I think by the letter of the law, it was not continuation, because he was fouled. Steph reacts to the foul and throws up a shot. Now, you do what you're supposed to do if you're Steph, because that's what you try to do to, gain an extra point. And Steph is very good at making those circus shots. So are other players in the league, and those get called often. I will say by the letter of the law, I don't think that was a continuation. I think it was correctly called a foul on the floor, on the court. However, I see stuff like that, and frankly, stuff worse than that don't get called continuation. That's where my confusion comes in, and that's one part of it. The other part was you waited to call the foul until after the shot went in, which to me tells me that official who made the call is thinking that the result of the shot matters. And if you don't call continuation, the result of the shot does not matter. So why are you waiting to see the result of the shot? That makes no sense to me. Okay, that was issue number 1. That one's more confusing to me than downright wrong. The second one is the one that's just flat out wrong and no one can possibly argue with it. Draymond Green passes to a cutting GP2 from the left baseline. GP2 lays it up off the glass. It hits the glass. Then John Collins knocks it away with his hand. Called a block. It's absolutely a goaltend. No call. The Clippers get the rebound. Steph Curry commits a foul right after. And then Steve Kerr, incensed as he should be, gets 2 quick technical fouls, gets ejected, and the 3 made free throws for the Clippers pushed the lead to 10, when if it was just called the goaltend, the lead would have been 5. Gigantic difference in a game in which the Warriors ultimately lose by 1, 103-102. Okay. After the game, whenever there is a couple of calls in a basketball game that get scrutinized heavily, you get a chance to read the pool report from that basketball game, where a beat reporter from one of the two teams, I don't know if it's normally the home team, I don't know how it works, but a beat reporter from one of the home teams gets to ask the crew chief a handful of questions about the plays in question or the calls in question. And tonight it was Tomer Azerly, apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name, of Clutch Points, asked the questions of crew chief Brian Forte. I'm just going to read word for word what was said here. So the question was, what did Steve Kerr say to warrant the first and then the second technical fouls that led to his ejection? And Brian Forte said, quote, for the first technical foul, Coach Kerr aggressively approached the official while shouting profanities. After the first technical was called, he continued shouting profanities while being held back by his assistant coach, and led to the second technical foul. Okay, that is the explanation there. That's fair enough. Steve Kerr deserved both techs and to be ejected. That's not the issue at hand. The next question was, it appeared as though an uncalled goaltending is what led to Kerr's frustrations. Was that correctly uncalled, and could that play have been whistled in order to trigger a review? Here's what Brian Forte said, quote, the shot by Gary Payton II hit the backboard prior to being touched by Collins. It should have been ruled a goaltending violation. The only way it could have been reviewed was if it was called on the floor and the Clippers challenged the call because it did not occur in the last 2 minutes of the game, end quote. Okay, so Brian Forte, the crew chief in this game tonight, admits that that was a missed call. It was not called, and because it was not called, it cannot be reviewed. The only way in this instance it could have been reviewed was if it was called a goaltend and the Clippers challenged. Let me break it to you. The Clippers would not have challenged because it was clearly a goaltend. They did add, of course, if it happened in the last 2 minutes, that could have triggered an automatic review, which was a follow-up question that Forte answered affirmatively as well. And then the last question to Brian Forte is, quote, why was Stephen Curry not given continuation on his made floater a few plays prior in the fourth quarter? And Brian Forte answered, quote, Curry was grabbed around the hip by John Collins prior to the gather, and this was correctly ruled a non-shooting foul. Okay, that is the answer from Brian Forte. I think by the letter of the law, that is correct. I will just say, all you hope for as a basketball fan, all you hope for as a player is consistency, and that is not a call that I see consistency on in today's NBA. There's different standards for continuation, I believe, based on what the official is, and that's always going to happen, right? Just like the strike zone in baseball, it depends who the umpire is. There are differences in how games are officiated based on who the official is. I just would like to see a little bit more uniformity across the board. I think it would vastly help the NBA. Again, that Steph Curry one, for me, is not one that I really blame this officiating crew for, because I think it was the right call based on the rule book. I just don't see it that way in most crews. And I think it also differs from player to player. Steph Curry, to me, is a player that doesn't really get the benefit of those whistles, it seems, when other players tend to. It probably would have been an and one for James Harden, right? Feels like he gets the benefit of the doubt in some of those kinds of plays. So that is also what's frustrating. The worst thing, though, is absolutely the missed goaltending call on the GP2 layup and the John Collins block. That absolutely should have been a goaltend, and it sucks because it cost the Warriors a couple of points, and what happened after cost the Warriors 3 more points, and it's a game in which you lose by 1. 103-102 was the final in favor of the Clippers. The Clippers now 13-22, and the Warriors now 19-18. Okay, we got more to talk about, and if you want to weigh in, you want to express your frustrations about the officials, you can do so. 888-957-9570. We got a couple of coaches to hear from. Terry Stotts spoke first, and then Steve Kerr spoke. We're going to hear from Steve Kerr first, though, because he's the head coach, and I'm sure he probably cooled down a bit by allowing Terry Stotts to speak first. But let's hear from Steve Kerr, who addressed the media post-game. The Warriors lose by a single point, 103-102. They fought back valiantly down the stretch, but just not quite enough. They got down by 13 with 4.5 left, and they only lost by 1. They had a chance to win it in the final seconds. Pretty remarkable. It was that close. They could not make shots. They shoot just 38% from the field. They scored only 13 points in the entire third quarter, and they lose another 1-point game, their third 1-point loss in the last month. All right, here's Steve Kerr post-game talking to the media.
Yeah, it was tough. Foreign territory.
Oh, is this Steph Curry?
So, the good news is I probably won't foul out the rest of my career.
I'm gonna stop that. We'll hear from that coming up later. But that was the beginning of Steph Curry. We will hear Steph later. But while the guys get that sort of in the back, let's hear from Terry Stotts first. Stotts did speak first, after all. And before we do that, while that was happening, we actually did get a call. So let's go to the call first, and then we will hear from Terry Stotts, because Jen is in Danville and wants to weigh in. What's up, Jen? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. What do you got, Jen?
Hey, so, the result of that no call, which I didn't even get to watch the game today. I listened to it on the radio. I'm driving. This season has been especially egregious. I can't think of anything other than rigged. But besides that non-call for the clear, as you said, you could see it from Faye's goaltend, also led to a Stephen Curry foul. And if that doesn't happen, if they call it correctly and Steph does not foul in the shuffle after that, he doesn't foul out of the game. They don't get the technical free throw for Kerr and the other 2 free throws for Steph's foul. That changes everything, and it makes you wonder what the motivations are. It couldn't be that none of the 3 officials on the floor didn't see the goaltend. So are they gambling? That's been happening this year. It's gone to court, or there's been indictments. It just really, really makes you wonder. And as far as the continuation, non-continuation, I haven't seen any other player get so many buckets taken away as I have Steph in the last 2 months. So we're just targeted, and I'm just, as a fan, I'm ride or die with the Warriors, but I'm just about done with the NBA. It's made it almost unwatchable.
Jen, I appreciate the call and your point about the Steph Curry foul after the non-call on the goaltend is a good one. Now, I think it's probably also on Steph to not commit the foul in that spot, but you're right. If the bucket goes in, there's no Steph foul, and he probably doesn't foul out, at least not when he did. He also needs to be smarter with when he gives fouls. Like the 6th foul was not a good decision. You already gave up the offensive rebound. Don't double down on a mistake by then committing a foul and putting him on the free throw line and also fouling out. But you're right. If that's a goaltend, just the way that play happened, if you get the bucket, it's an inbound play instead of a fight for a rebound, and there's no foul called there, and maybe that changes the game as well. But let's hear from Terry. Or actually, one more thing on that, Jen. I hear you, and it's frustrating, and on something as cut and dry as that goaltend no call, where it hits the backboard clearly, it is absolutely 100%, no doubt about it, a goaltend. How can that possibly be missed when you have 3 referees sitting there watching it? It's frustrating. My mind doesn't go to rigged, betting on the games. That's not where my mind goes, and maybe that's just me. I don't think there's some large conspiracy. I just think it's an unfortunate situation where 3 officials missed a call that they have no business missing, and it went against the Warriors. over the course of an entire season, I think the conversation is different from a team-wide perspective and like a singular player like Stephen Curry. Over the course of a season, I think the ticky-tack calls, the missed calls, the ones that can go either way, generally tend to even out, I think, over the course of an entire season. Tonight, I thought it was one that favored the Clippers. I saw a couple of comments that came in on the YouTube chat. I apologize. I don't quite remember who it was, and I can't quite scroll back and find. Actually, I see it right now. Damon says they gave the Warriors makeup calls. I don't remember seeing anything that I thought was a makeup call in those moments, but I will say I think generally over the course of an entire season, things like that missed goaltend call tend to even out. It's just, I don't think it even out tonight is my view on the situation. All right, let's go back to the sound from post-game. Terry Stotts spoke because he wanted to save his head coach, Steve Kerr, from some fine money. So here is Terry Stotts, who acted as the Warriors head coach for the final handful of minutes. Here's Terry Stotts post-game.
I'm up here because I'm saving Steve some money. So that's the only reason I'm here. Any questions?
What particularly did you think set Steve off about that?
What particularly?
Well, that sequence.
I think
of
it's that
calls.
goaltending call that was missed.
There was also, it seemed like that.
Well, there's probably some other things, but that was the last straw, probably.
Did that seem like
I don't want to speak for Steve.
Yeah. Well, kind of are, I guess. Did it seem obvious to y'all on the bench it was a goaltend?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see a replay, but it sure seemed obvious at the time that was a goaltend. They did not give an explanation. It was a late call, so I assume it was a late call, and he assumed the foul was earlier. So I don't know. That was, but no, we were not given an explanation.
Did you sense frustration building throughout the course of play?
There's always going to be some frustration in a close game. You know, the game. There's going to be an ebb and flow of the game, but I thought for the most part we kept our composure. I mean, you look at the stat sheet, we did a lot of good things. You look at how many turnovers we forced. We played our asses off, and so I don't know if frustration is the right word. When you're not making some shots, that can be. I don't think any frustration affected our game. Let's put it that way.
I mean, the group responds. I mean, has a shot to win at the buzzer. What did you think of the last play? Is that what you were looking for?
Well, obviously, we wanted to get Jimmy the ball, and I thought he had a good look. I thought it was going in. We had two, I think, Guy and maybe BP. Somebody, if it bounced the right way, we were going to get the offensive rebound. So yeah, we were pleased with the shot we got at the end.
Terry, what did you do to kind of get into the headspace of being the coach? Pretty sudden, Steve gets ejected, and suddenly you're the coach. Do you do anything to kind of get yourself, I guess, ready in the moment?
No. Just try and coach the game. And it helps. We got a veteran team. They know what they're doing out there. Steph, before he fouled out, really got us going. But Guy Santos was terrific in the fourth quarter, but no, as far as I'm concerned, it was coaching the game and trying to make good decisions.
You mentioned Guy. He played almost the entire fourth quarter after not playing at all the first three. What are some of the complicating factors that make it tough for him to have a steady role in this current rotation?
Might be positional. He's with Dre, and we played Jimmy at 4 a lot. We got our centers, and we're already playing 11, 12 people, so it's hard to squeeze minutes in there. But the great thing about Guy is anytime you put him in the game, you know what you're going to get. He's going to play hard. He's going to get an extra possession here or there. He may or may not make a shot, but you feel his presence out there, and he always stays ready. Tonight's a great example. He doesn't play for 3 quarters, and he's ready to go in a big game. So. I think he's just a guy you can count on regardless. But as far as getting him more, like I said, we're playing 12, 13 guys, so it's not easy.
Hey, Coach. So I see that on defense-wise that when you guys face some tall teams, that you guys have some frustration on the rebounds. What's something that we can do better when we facing the tall teams going next forward?
It's a good question, but, I'm looking at the stat sheet, and Clippers had, I don't have my glasses on, but I think it's 6 offensive rebounds. So maybe it affected our offensive rebounding, but, for the Clippers to only have 6 offensive rebounds, I don't know if it was that big of a factor tonight. Historically, we've always been really good with Draymond at 5, and Jimmy is a matchup, and we got a lot of guards. I thought that was one thing that Guy helped us with. He gave us a little bit more size, but I wouldn't say that the size was a factor tonight.
Coach, can you talk to us about Horford and the intangibles he brings and his contribution to the squad?
Al, he's a pro's pro. He's a winner. He's won at both levels, college and pro. He stays ready. I know it's been tough for him, not playing in back-to-backs, but he's a pro, and he's going to go out there. He's smart on both ends of the floor. It's nice when he makes shots, but he doesn't have to make shots to have an impact on the game. And he's great in the locker room. He has the respect of every player in the locker room.
Terry, that first half, you guys forced so many live ball turnovers. I think you had 11, and usually that helps get your offense on track and get you going.
Right.
What sort of, prevented that from happening tonight? Where
I thought
those live balls.
Honestly, I don't know how many. Obviously, they had 20 turnovers. I don't know how many of them were live ball. I thought we forced a lot, especially when we came back in the fourth. I said earlier, I thought we got our hands on a lot of balls and created some turnovers that really helped us. Now, whether we converted or not, we converted much better in the second half than we did in the first half. But, I do think that was one of the reasons why we made a little run at the end, is because of our aggressiveness on the ball.
Along those same lines, especially in the first half, were you happy with the shot quality, and they just weren't going in, or was there something that needed to change?
I think for us, we're going to shoot 40 to 50 threes, and we didn't shoot the 3 well. And so, in general, I think we take good threes, and if we're not shooting an average percentage from 3, that it makes it difficult, and that's where the extra possessions come in. But I think for the most part, we missed some in the first half. We missed 4 or 5 point blank shots. So I thought our shot quality was good, both from inside the line and outside the line. All right, thank you.
All right, that's Terry Stotts post game after he finished the game as the acting head coach for the Warriors once Steve Kerr got ejected in that fourth quarter. And Terry Stotts spoke as well, and he opened up his post-game presser by saying he's speaking for Steve to save Steve some money. And translation is, if Steve speaks to you guys right now, he's going to say something that will draw a fine from the NBA because he is going to call out the officiating. That's what that means, and frankly, I can't really blame Steve Kerr for that. Something that Terry Stotts said there down at the tail end. In fact, it was his last answer. Last couple of answers were about the threes not falling. Did you like the quality of shots? All that. And what he said was, we're going to take 40 to 50 threes a night. Obviously, you want them to be good looks and open looks. And tonight, largely, they were happy with the quality of look the Warriors got. And that's what they're looking for. This has been something that I frankly haven't seen eye to eye with the Warriors on all season long. If you ask Steve Kerr, at least it's happened in the past, I would imagine he'll still say the same thing now. You ask Steve Kerr, you ask, I think, every member of the coaching staff, are you guys a good three-point shooting team? And they will tell you yes. They'll tell you that is one of their strengths. And let me just bring up the full season-long numbers so I can quote it and I can tell you exactly where the Warriors rank in terms of three-pointers. Let's see here. The Warriors have made the most three-pointers in the NBA, but it's also because they've attempted the most three-pointers in the NBA. Percentage-wise, the Warriors are the 27th best, that's field goal percentage, excuse me. three-point percentage, the Warriors are the 15th best three-point shooting team in the NBA. So they are right smack dab in the middle of the pack. They shoot 36% from downtown. Okay? And they shoot the most threes out of anybody. And if you ask anybody on the Warriors will say they are a very good three-point shooting team, and we need to lean into that strength. Okay, they're not a terrible three-point shooting team, and the 15th ranking, 15th spot, 15th best three-point shooting team by percentage for the Warriors. They shoot 36% from deep. That is amplified, and I think it's a little bit better when you shoot it at the volume that they do, right? They make more per game. It's kind of like Steph. Steph's percentage from downtown is so outrageously absurd over his career because of the level of difficulty and the volume with which he gets those threes up. So that is, I think, part of why the Warriors think it is a strength. I don't think it's anywhere near the strength that they think it is. And oftentimes, I think the Warriors shooting 40 or more threes a night is foolish when you have the opportunity, despite your lack of size, to get in and score on the interior. GP2 changed this game to begin the fourth quarter by getting to the rim over and over and over. And one of them was because he drove himself, but the others were breakdowns defensively where the Warriors penetrated the paint and found a cutting GP2. I think the Warriors are not nearly as good of a three-point shooting team as they think they are. I think what Terry Stotts said about the quality of looks the Warriors got tonight, I disagree. Did the Warriors create a lot of open shots today? Yes, they created a lot of open threes today. Absolutely, they created a ton of them. So many open threes. But let me tell you something. It matters who is taking those open threes. Okay? If it's an open three for Steph, absolutely, that's the best shot in the world. There's no better shot in basketball than a wide open Steph three. That's the best shot in basketball. But how many times over the course of a game is there absolutely flat out a wide open Steph three? Like, it happens. Great ball movement, fast break, Steph spaces out. Like, it happens. That is an S-tier type shot. That's a great shot. Absolutely. How about a Draymond Green wide open three? Do you call that a shot created by the Warriors offense, or do you call that a shot allowed by a defense? Because Draymond Green, he was 2 for 8 from the field tonight, 0 for 6 from downtown. He took a 3 on 3 of the Warriors' first 4 possessions. I dare you to go back and watch those plays, those possessions. Were those 3 threes by Draymond within the Warriors' first 4 possessions, were those good shots that were created because of the Warriors' action on offense? No. They were not created because of the Warriors' action on offense. They were created, if you want to call it that, because the defense said, Draymond, I dare you to shoot. So when Terry Stotts or the Warriors say, we created good looks tonight, some, but I don't think, just because it's an open shot does not mean it's a shot you should take. Let me ask you. And before I ask you this, I want to remind you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey sports station, and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries, always live on the free Odyssey app, coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. Let's have a conversation here, and if you want to weigh in, give me a call. Maybe it would be quicker if you want to shoot me a text or chime in on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957 The Game. All right, so an open three-pointer for Draymond Green. Do you consider that a good shot, Warrior fans? Answer that for me. Do you consider that a good shot? What about GP2, an open three? Do you consider that a good shot? Is that a quality look, a GP2 open three-pointer? When I say open, I mean open. Like no one within 5 feet of the guy. Is that open? A GP2 open three. Is that a good shot? Damon chimes in on the YouTube chat. No on both accounts from Damon. I would agree with you, Damon. What about, let's see, who else here? What about someone like Jimmy Butler? Do you consider that a good three, a wide open Jimmy Butler three? What about Jimmy Butler? That one is not an easy no for me. It's not Jimmy's strength. He has been pretty darn good at it this year, and it is, I think, based on a very good selection in that he only shoots the ones that he thinks he can hit, and a couple of late shot clock. He hit one one-legged one today. That's not a terrible shot. I would take a wide open Jimmy Butler 3, but it's not like the number 1 ideal, not number 2. It's not number 3 on this team. Let me ask you this. It's funny that we just had this comment come in from Tall Asian Mike on the YouTube chat. Shout out. And you want to join the conversation on YouTube, you can. YouTube.com/957. Again, the next name I was going to bring up was Moses Moody. Do you consider a Moses Moody wide open 3 a good shot right now? Do you consider a Moses Moody 3 a good shot right now? You would think in practice, and that's what the comment writes, I'd say Moody would be a yes, but there's rarely an open 3 by him. That's actually not even what I would say. I would say it should be a good look, but of late it hasn't. He hasn't shown an ability to make open 3s with any kind of regularity this year. Moses Moody on the season is shooting 37% from deep, and that's like on par with his career average. It's not all that bad, but you look at Moses Moody in the month of December, shot 33% from deep. 0 for 3 tonight, 2 for 6 versus Utah, 1 for 4 versus OKC. I'll just put it this way. At this point, he's now, in his 5th year in the league. He needs to be hitting those open 3s with a lot more regularity. So would I say a Moses Moody wide open 3 is a good shot? I would say, yeah, through, I'd wince through gritted teeth. I'd say yes, but I don't have a ton of confidence that shot's going in right now. Do I want him to take a wide open 3? Yes, more so than I want Draymond to, more so than I want GP2 to. Do I think it's a great shot? No. So my point is, and we could run through everyone on the Warriors roster, it's a great shot if it's Steph. I know that it doesn't feel this way, but Pods is close to 40% from deep. An open Pods 3, that is still a good shot, and I want him to take the wide open 3s, absolutely. I know Al Horford has not been good yet this year. I want Al to shoot the wide open 3s, and I know Buddy Hield has not been good. He's not playing, but I want Buddy Hield to shoot those 3s as well. The larger point that I'm trying to make is just because you create X amount of open 3s per game does not mean they are good looks. There's a certain level of indifference from opposing defenses on a handful of your shooters. And if your open 3s are coming from the guys the opponents are indifferent about, it's less about your offensive execution and your offensive strategy as it is about the defensive strategy, which is let that guy shoot. I don't want to give up something else, so I will sag off of Draymond or GP2, and I will give that up. I will let you take that shot. So I disagree generally with, I think, the Warriors' estimation that they are a really good three-point shooting team, and with, on a night like tonight, that they created a bunch of really, really good looks from the outside. Did they create some? Yes, I thought they did. Honestly, the execution offensively was pretty darn good tonight. They committed just 7 turnovers. But again, it's not as if this was, and it depends who you listen to and who you watch and all that, but you hear it all over the place. So many open looks. It depends who's taking those open looks. And oftentimes the defenses they're determining who's taking the open looks because they're leaving certain guys open. And they are, doubling others because they don't want those others to take those shots. It's why Steph Curry still scoring nearly 30 points a game at age 37 is so ridiculous, because you have defenders that are doubling his way 24/7 because they're not as fearful of a lot of the other guys on the floor. And I think that's the reality of the Warriors' offense right now. I don't think they need to be settling for as many threes as they currently are. It's difficult, though, and this gets back to a conversation about Draymond Green, because there is, I think, a conversation about Draymond's value offensively. And, how about this number for Draymond Green? I thought Draymond was largely really good tonight. Now, did he make his threes? No, he was 0 for 6, and that's part of the conversation that we're having right now. But when he wasn't shooting, he was darn near perfect. 12 assists, 5 rebounds, just 1 turnover. 12 assists and 1 turnover. If Draymond does that every night, the Warriors will win a lot of basketball games. And how did all of his assists come? I mean, I don't know about all of them. I would imagine like at least 8 or 9 of his 12 assists were on his penetration, passing to a cutter from the baseline for a dunk or a layup. Countless times, over and over and over. And how do you get in that situation? When defenders overplay Steph, they double Steph, he drops the ball off to Draymond. Draymond, with the advantage because his defender's out doubling Steph, drives, draws the defense from underneath, and that opens up the lane from the dunker spot where GP2 occupies, right? Where post occupies sometimes, where TJD occupies, and it leads to an easy layup. Or in the case of the John Collins block, a missed goaltending call. That was the same exact kind of play in that spot. It just didn't go the Warriors' way. But and that is, the point is, so many of Draymond's assists came on buckets in the paint. And I think the Warriors, if I was in charge of determining like the number of threes they take, as Terry Stotts laid out, we're going to take like upwards of 40 threes most nights, I would probably bring that number back just a little bit, because I don't think the Warriors right now are a good enough three-point shooting team to warrant that many shots from the outside. That's how I feel. I also think at times the lineup construction around Steph on the floor shows this, because Steph is Steph and he's a force on offense like few others. Steph can do so much just with his presence on the court. And because he is what he is as a shooter, I think the Warriors feel like they can get away with maybe a little less shooting when he's out there. If I'm the Warriors, and this is a balancing act because you want to be able to survive the non-Steph minutes, right? But if I'm the Warriors, I want to try to make things easy on Steph so he doesn't have to work as hard for his shots, and so he can get higher quality looks, because I'd prefer a higher quality look for Steph than a higher quality look for anybody else. So I think maybe there should be more Steph along with Melton, Steph and Horford, Steph and Pods, because those are 3 of your better shooters alongside Steph on this team this year, as opposed to Steph playing a ton with Jimmy Butler, and Steph playing a ton with, Draymond Green, and Steph playing a ton with Moses Moody, who right now can't hit threes. You might need to adjust a little bit your patterns and who you're playing alongside Steph, because tonight specifically, it was hard for Steph to get good looks. And I think some of that is on him. I think he was forcing things a little bit offensively. I think he took a little too many tough threes in this game. But I also think it is difficult because of who's out there on the floor with him. And tonight, for example, offensively, he was not getting a lot of help until Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter, who scored 24 points in this basketball game. And in the fourth quarter, he scored 10 of those 24. So he had 14 points through 3 quarters. And the Warriors at that point, they're looking at a deficit. And it only got worse later on in that fourth quarter once they go down by 13 with 4.5 left. And then the shots started falling miraculously. And they scored, 21 points in the final 4.5 after scoring just 13 points in the entire third quarter. A strange basketball game today. It was a really, really weird basketball game. A couple other things before we get on out of here tonight. I think I brought this up briefly and I didn't pay it off with the number. Draymond Green was awesome today, and I do think tonight does alleviate a little bit. I know I was just talking about it. I think it alleviates a little bit of the conversation about Draymond offensively. I know his shot did not fall, but the shot has never been Draymond's strength. It has been his ability to take advantage of the gravity of Steph and use that to create easy buckets for others. I think he did that tonight excellently. Again, 12 assists and just 1 turnover in a game in which the Warriors lost. Draymond was a plus 15. By far, Guy Santos was the next best, plus 13, because Guy only played in the fourth quarter when the Warriors had their best quarter, and the Warriors won that quarter by 11. Guy was a plus 13, having played nearly every second of that fourth quarter. We can talk about the Warriors perhaps needing to play Guy Santos earlier, and Terry Stotts did talk about that postgame and said, he could have helped us maybe a little bit with the size, but we're already playing 12 or 13 guys. It's hard. And I understand that. Guy Santos did change the game with his effort, intensity immediately. He got an offensive rebound that led to a Warrior bucket. He hit a three. He cut to the hoop at the right time, drew a foul, split the free throws, but immediately, like within minutes of checking in, had impacted 3 plays already. And that's just on the offensive end. And his best end of the floor is probably his defensive end. The offensive rebounding is probably maybe skill number 1 for Guy, but just hustle in general, and that oftentimes shows up on the defensive end. And he had a big impact immediately on the offensive end. So maybe Steve Kerr could have played Guy Santos earlier. I think that would have helped the Warriors in this game, where you're trying to scratch and claw for as many buckets as you possibly can, and sometimes the offensive rebound and the hustle of Guy Santos will give you an extra possession and an extra bucket here and there. So that could have helped. Draymond Green, though, I thought was awesome. The plus 15, best on the team. Again, Guy Santos second best at plus 13, a game in which you lose. That is hard to do. But this is a telling statistic. Draymond Green since December, and this is entering tonight, since December, so all of December and the first couple of games here of 2026, the Warriors, with Draymond on the floor, again, over a month plus, with Draymond on the floor, have been outscored by 65 points. The Warriors, with Draymond off the floor, have outscored opponents by 90 points. That is a gigantic shift, right? That is a change of a swing, right? Net swing of 155 points, Draymond on off the court. Now, tonight, they were plus 15 with him on and minus 16 with him off. So tonight puts a big dent in those numbers, which is what you want to see if you are the Warriors, because you need Draymond. But the last month plus, he's not been effective. He has not had a good impact on winning basketball. His defense has not been able to overcome how he bogs down the offense. He still did not make his threes. 0 for 6, 2 for 8 from the field. 0 for 6 from downtown, 2 for 8 from the field. But what he did passing the basketball was perfect tonight. Absolutely perfect passing the ball. 12 turnovers and 1 assist. But he didn't hit his shots. But again, that gets back to the shot quality that we're talking about. And I would venture to guess the reason why Draymond is taking a lot of those threes is because the Warriors coaching staff has told them, take the shots, take the open threes when we create them. And I just tend to disagree with what the Warriors think is a good shot. Just because it's open does not mean it's a good shot. Warriors lose this one 103-102 to the Clippers. Warriors now 19-18. And as we get ready to head on out of here, we talked about this 11-game stretch for the Warriors. OKC on Friday, Utah on Saturday, then tonight in LA, then 8 in a row at home. The Warriors' target should be 8-3. 8-3. Well, in the first 3 games of this 11-game stretch, they are 1-2, which means in the final 8, in order to hit the mark of 8-3, they would have to go 7-1. Not impossible, but tonight's loss really hurt them. This was, I think, the first time where this ventured off the script, because you expected a loss versus OKC. Most did. You expected a win against Utah, and you probably were counting on this one to be a win. Probably. Although, you do have some winnable games coming up. Milwaukee will not be easy. You should beat Sac. You should beat Atlanta. You should beat Portland, although they've beat you 3 times so far this year. The next will be tough. You feel good about Charlotte, and then a back-to-back with Miami and Toronto. Who knows? But now you got to be nearly perfect in order to get to that 8-3 mark in this 11-game stretch, because you lost tonight and you're now 1-2 in the first 3 games of this 11-game stretch. All right. That's going to do it for Warriors wrap-up tonight. Coming up next for the Warriors, Giannis, Ryan Rollins, and the Milwaukee Bucks in town. Yes, Ryan Rollins, the former Warrior, second-round pick out of Toledo, who never really played with the Warriors, then went to the Wizards as part of the Jordan Poole-Chris Paul trade. Didn't pan out there, got in some trouble off the court, has since flourished as a Buck. He is starting. He's playing great basketball. He's in town along with Giannis for the Bucks. That's coming up on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Of course, as always, pregame coverage at 6 right here on 95.7 The Game. All right, that'll do it for Warriors Wrap-Up. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Cam Williams behind the glass, for Zach Green behind the glass, my name is Mark Randy signing off. The Dubs, they lose another 1-point game, 103-102 to the Clippers, and the Warriors now 19-18 on the season. Back in action Wednesday at home with the Bucks. It kicks off an 8-game homestand for the Warriors. Until then, my name is Mark Graney signing off. Have a good night. We'll talk next time on 95.7 The Game.
We know that about Mark Davis. So if he's choosing the Raiders owner, even though Tom Brady is the one that's doing this by proxy, however, if he's choosing between coaches who are suing